Hola, 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 Atlanta, Georgia, Latinoamérica y el mundo. Esto es Siempre United. Hoy tenemos un programa especial, hoy tenemos un Siempre United internacional, un Siempre United en 2 idiomas, en el cual vamos a tratar de hacerlo lo más prolijo, lo más entendible posible para todos. Mi inglés no es perfecto, yo creo que voy a poder entender bastante lo que se viene hablando. Pero bueno, tengo acá a mi compañero Ron y a mi compañero Luis que nos van a dar una mano bárbara para poder comunicarnos con el resto de los muchachos. Así que, ¡vámonos muchachos! Hola, 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 estamos de vuelta, estamos arrancando este programa internacional, un programa especial, un programa que va a tener muchas opiniones diversas, distintos puntos de vista. Voy a presentar la parte en español, lo tenemos al sabroso Vélez.
Saludos, saludos mi gente. Que algo interesante hoy.
Hoy va a estar lindo. Lo tengo al parcero Ron.
Siempre traductor, nunca intraductor.
Me encanta cuando estás así, me encanta. I love it, I love it. Y Ron, bueno, te dejo que introduzcas a nuestros invitados. Bueno, invitados hoy son como de la casa, así que tu momento.
Yeah, welcome guys to special edition of Siempre United. 2 languages, 2 different points of views. It's going to be a great time. We got Eric Quintana here.
What's up, Nico? Nico, ¿dónde está el mate?
No, hoy no hay mate. No me autoriza la producción a tomar mate mientras hago el programa. They don't let me do it.
And we have Joe Patrick from Dirty South Soccer.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. Only guy who doesn't speak at a lick of Spanish here. So.
No, but it's
Everything's
okay,
good, man. Everything's good.
We're good.
To diversify the squad,
yeah.
right?
happy to help diversify. Yeah, me.
That's great.
That's the idea. The idea is to have different point of view of this situation. No?
I love it. Yeah.
So, Ron,
Yeah,
what are we talking today?
Today we're talking a little bit about the FO's decisions these past couple years, including Boca Negra, Eels, all that with Frank de Boer coming in, Tata going out. We're going to be talking about a little about the turnover of the squad, new faces coming in, old faces out, why we couldn't keep everyone, why we could. Maybe that goes hand in hand with Boca Negra. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the team's identity today, where we stand as a team and where we're headed. With a new coach possibly coming in soon, hopefully. And yeah.
I'm going to try it in English. Yeah.
I like this.
Man,
Let's go.
I like that. It's a new segment. We need to do it one day. It's my first time recording something in English, so be patient with me. And
I bet you won't hear it after, but okay.
Yeah. I really want to hear you first because we know each other. Yeah, Siempre United, we know each other. We know what we think. We know we discuss a lot these things. But I want to hear you first. What do you think about? If you want to start, Eric.
About the front office decisions. So it's weird because you got to look at it from 2 different perspectives. You look at it from the front office perspective, and you can't say it's a failure because they obviously sold Pity for a profit. They're in all likelihood going to sell Barco for a profit. Most of the decisions they've hit in the first 2 years were absolute, or most of the decisions they made in the first 2 years were absolute hits. I think it's a little too early to tell about at least this year, but you look at it from the front office perspective, and it's kind of a win. It's not the greatest of wins, but it is a win because ultimately they're continuing the model that they set out to they're pursuing. From the fans' perspective, last year, as successful as it was from a trophy point of view, from the number of trophies they got, from the fact that they were 1 game away from an unfortunate match away from hosting another MLS Cup. The fans weren't happy. So as much as you want to look at the front office and think, they're doing a good job, it's a weird dichotomy. I don't know exactly how to gauge it as a whole overall, because you can argue both points, that it didn't look great last year, that it hasn't looked great since Tata Martino left on the field, but at the same time, there has been success on the field and there's been success in the front office. So it's tough to say for sure.
Eric, did you hear, or anybody, did you hear the town hall that Carlos Bocanegra and Darren Eales did the other day, where they were answering some fan questions? If you guys heard it, I thought it was interesting how how it was explained as to how this season is in part turned so sour, and part of it was Carlos Bocanegra saying that the team had essentially pushed the chips in to the middle of the table, like in 2018, 2019, because they thought they had a chance to win early, which they obviously did by winning MLS Cup and US Open Cup. But he said that like that had forced their hand to make certain decisions when it came to the moves they made ahead of this season, in terms of, turning over, getting new contracts on board, things like that. And I guess part of it is kind of true to an extent, but I don't think that the team needed to change as much as it did. I think that there was a conscious decision made to have a refresh of the squad, thinking that would actually be beneficial for things to kind of keep things fresh. But I think some of it backfired, particularly just down to the scouting that was done and some of the players that have brought in, I'm not so sure are as effective for this team. I know that one of the areas there's so many different positions, but if you look at Julian Gressel and Brooks Lennon, that's a straight up swap, right? They thought that they could get the production out of Brooks Lennon for less money. And I don't know if he's the same player. He's definitely not the same type of player, but I'm not sure if they're getting the same kind of value. He hasn't shown himself to be as productive as Julian Gressel. And Gressel hasn't been good in DC either. And so maybe sometimes these moves are kind of not in anybody's interest, but they make sense money-wise.
Julian Gressel also benefited from having MLS's most lethal striker in front of him.
True.
And having, a clear identity to the team. He knew Joseph was up there. He could just send that long ball. Joseph would somehow get to it, do his thing, and then score. And that's what really this team was built on in 2019 and coming to 2020, was somehow getting the ball into to Joseph, and then Joseph making something up and putting the ball in back in net. But before getting the ball to Joseph, there's no identity, there's no idea of style to Atlanta's play.
Yeah, but last year, if you can check it out, the last Joseph matches, his goals are 1-2 touches. He's not like Suarez, Messi, a player who take the ball, go around 2-3 players and score. He's a player who how to read spaces, how to approach to the spaces, a smart player to take advantage about the defenders. So you need a player to put the ball in that place. And Gressel was that player, and we can't replace that player.
Yeah, and it's not just Gressel. I think that overall, it doesn't look like Atlanta United is in control of games. They're not able to effectively move the ball from the back to the front in a controlled manner because they don't have the passers out of the back that they used to have in Leandro. They don't have guys in midfield like Darlington Nagbe who can really control the ball and make you feel secure. And then that allows Joseph to just make those vertical runs that put center backs on their heels, and all of a sudden you have control of the game when you have all those pieces, and it just doesn't feel like this year Atlanta United really has any of those same pieces.
Exactly. At the beginning of this year, you could see Joseph coming half the court back to get the ball because otherwise he won't get it because they destroy the middle field of Atlanta United. Marin, Nagbe, Gressel, none of them are here, so crossing the ball from the middle to the beginning of the court for Joseph Martinez is almost impossible right now. So
no, and not even that, not even Joseph. Pity Martinez, bro. Pity had to go track back all the way to the first third of the field just to receive the ball from the center backs. You saw that the pass walks attempted towards Pity against Orlando that resulted in Orlando's third goal. But Pity had to track all the way back, and it's something the fans will slander, and will slander Pity because I guess he lost the ball. But Pity doesn't have to track back all the way to the first third of the field. He's not that type of player. He's a forward basically.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I read a lot about that, about Pity position and his performances, but they always compare Pity with the River Plate Pity. Yeah, the different thing is in River Plate they play in a different identity. Okay, it's not a Frank de Boer team, first of all. So you have Peter first. Why bring Frank de Boer? That's my question when we talk about front office decisions. If you already have the employees, you need to bring a boss who work with that kind of players. You can, for example, when you talk about the other players who like give it something to Joseph. I can remember every single match. Leandro crossed the ball to the space to Gressel like 4, 5, 6 times in each half. So if you have this kind of mechanism already working, and oily, why change that? Why talking about the rebuild a team when you already have a team? They make decisions like administrative decisions, which they don't go in the same way of the identity of the team. That is when I want to know the front office decisions.
And it wasn't a regular thing. It was the champions. You had the champion thing. You just add a new player. Well, Almiron that time left, but you basically replace him with PT. Why you brought this guy that his mentality is like so different, his way of playing is so different, and you start bringing him new players that in their old thing they were in the bench or they weren't even playing. So in the case of Pogba, like he wasn't even playing for 2 years. Like him, we hire a manager, a head coach that he was unemployed for 2 years before he came to Atlanta United. It's like, why?
And that's not the big problem either. Like they don't work for 2 years, and then if you like check it out, his numbers in the last 2 teams, they get fired for not score goals, for not win games. So if you have the best team in the league with the most dangerous strikers, why bring a coach who decides to defend? I don't know if you think about that, or I've been reading a lot.
Yeah. I kind of have a slightly different take on it, which is not so much that I really think that Frank de Boer was a defensive manager. I think that I don't think that he could communicate to his team what he had in his head. Like he had in his head, I think, a way of playing that a lot of us would find attractive, but he wasn't able to actually convey that message so that his players really understood. And it's not the players' fault at all. I thought that Frank, for his entire time here, was a poor communicator, whether it was with the media, whether it was with what I understand to be from players. And so I think that all kind of played into a team that was that's what we saw that first half of last year, right? A team that like didn't really feel freedom on the field to do what they wanted. And then, over the course of the season, they kind of got that together as they, I think that they kind of reorganized themselves in a way where it was a little bit more hands off from Frank, and he let them go out there and do what they wanted. But I think that Nico, what you bring up is really interesting in when you talk about the disconnect that where with a player like Pizzi and a manager like Frank de Boer. And I think what it really spells to, like with those two key members of the team coming in at the same time, it's like, okay, so Carlos Bocanegra's job as technical director, his role is supposed to be to keep a continuity or a certain style of play on the field. Like that is his job, to direct that. And so that's why it's confusing when you do bring in, like you say, two players from very different cultures, just two people that are going to have to work very well together, coming from totally different places. It doesn't, just even off the top of your head, it didn't make, like, I think when a lot of us heard Frank de Boer was going to become the manager, it was kind of shocking, honestly, because it didn't seem like it would be a great fit. And so I think that that's kind of one of the problems that is infected Atlanta United a little bit this year, which is kind of just having that disconnect between the staff, whether it's the coach or the technical director or whoever it is in the front office, with the actual players who are supposed to be performing on the field.
I'm not convinced that Petey thought he was going to be playing for Frank de Boer. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but the timeline initially for the new manager was going to be Carlos Escalotto for a long time. Like I think most of us were convinced that he was the guy.
Well, I don't even think Tata had made his decision yet that he was leaving before Pitti was maybe didn't have his name on his signature yet, but he was going to be coming in.
Yeah, well,
I think the idea
he would be playing for Tata.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. Fine. But the first name we heard after that was Barros Escalotto, who would have made a lot more sense.
He was like the betting favorite, you would say.
Right. Which would have made a lot more sense over Frank de Boer. I would love to ask the front office and get an honest response of where Frank de Boer was on that list of names that they wanted to bring in, because I don't think he's the top guy. I don't even know if he's the second guy, because again, like you said, it doesn't make sense why they change so much so quick that quickly, because you look at the play style from Pitti at River and the two don't match, like we've been saying, the two don't match. It didn't make sense to me. I thought it could have worked, but the reason I think that Pitti, I guess didn't work out as well as he could have, or maybe as well as the fans wish he would have wanted to do, was because of that disconnect and the fact that I don't think he thought he was going to be playing for Frank de Boer coming to Atlanta United.
Yeah,
I can tell you something about that. When Tata Martino leave, there was a conflicting time because he have a family trouble, so he wanna figure out that first. And when Tata left, Tata give to the front office a list of names of which kind of coaches they should hire. But when we talk about front office decision, this is the trouble. Yeah. I am the champion coach. I built this team with Paul McDonough. Both left. And I give you a list of the people who can keep working out this. And you don't listen to that. You want hire a name who give you likes in Instagram or Twitter or wherever, or sell something. And when I heard this the first time, I knew this is going to happen. Because I already see this in many, many teams. River Plate is one of them. They have really good names like coaches. They have really good players in the field. But if you don't have a connection with them, with the identity of the club, I think here we need to talk about responsibility. And the front office have that one. That's really hard to solve, but it's the thing in this situation. They need to take the responsibility of this, or say just, "Oh, I'm sorry, I have a fall. I need to work out on this," because right now we need a rebuild a club.
What I would say is that losing out on a manager, on a potential manager, isn't the same as them not approaching him. So what I would say is that just because they didn't get Barros Escalotto doesn't mean that they didn't go after him or someone similar to him. He just might have gone somewhere else, like for LA Galaxy, for example.
Nothing sure.
You can't win them all. I don't know, even as a second or third choice, where Frank de Boer fit in. And I don't know if this is one of those things. I feel like it was one of those MLS, old school MLS decisions where they just brought someone in just for the name recognition, which it wasn't that great of name recognition to begin with, but it was something. It was like bringing the old soccer player looking to retire in MLS back in the day. That's what it felt like. And I honestly didn't think we'd see much of Frank de Boer after this, but lo and behold, he's got a new job.
Yeah. And I think that's why ultimately we have to, I hate to boil it down to such simple terms, but I think if you're going to say the Frank de Boer era was like a success or a failure because they won the U.S. Open Cup, I would still say it's a failure. Because I think it's a failure if you are having to depart the club after a year and a half and things are kind of in a lot of turmoil. And I know obviously it wasn't all his fault. There were a lot of things that conspired to make that happen. Joseph Martinez's injury this year was just kind of the beginning of things unraveling, or maybe the beginning was actually some of the moves that were made in the offseason before that. But yeah, it always felt like a weird fit to me. I will never forget when I first heard the story. At first it was a rumor that it was happening. And I remember reading it and being like, part of me was half half denying it. And I think the reason I was denying it was because I was so crushed inside. I was like, why would they bring in Frank de Boer? He's come off of failed stints at Inter and Crystal Palace. His track record wasn't good. And, eventually he comes in and, I grow to like him because I'm, whenever I'm able to talk to somebody, you don't like dislike many people, or at least I don't. But, it just never felt, like I said earlier, that he was really able to like connect and really make the team his own. And so for that reason, I think it was the right move to move on from him as soon as they did. And honestly, it was kind of heartening to me that they were able to make that difficult decision, because I think a lot of us have been talking about it before it happened. But there's still kind of, there's still things that need to be resolved within the club when it comes to the front office and, like what is the identity of this team now? Now it's like we're just in this kind of moment of free fall, and we don't know who Atlanta United is exactly. What is going to be the identity of this team under the next coach, under the next set of DPs, that kind of thing.
I think what's really disappointing is that at least from the 2019 season is that the players proved that they were good enough to win. Because again, they almost hosted MLS Cup for the second year in a row. Under the right coach, I think they could have done just that.
I believe that.
I think that under the right coach, under someone that maybe Atlanta United had as first choice, or someone that could present a similar identity to what was under Tata Martino, the players proved just by winning games and by getting as close as they did, that they could have, under the right management, repeated as champions again.
Yeah.
Gabriel Milito was in that list.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. But
wrong. I want to hear you, man. You're too quiet. I'm worried about that.
Boca Negra in the FO is setting a very bad precedent with the signing of Frank de Boer, and then the way they disarmed the club we once knew. And there hasn't been a single rumor of a head coach for over 60 days. It's almost like 70 days without one solid head coach rumor that we could at least think about, daydream, whatever. Nothing. There's nothing. But what?
We have a new DP.
We have a new DP with no coach, not knowing if he's going to
just like last time. It's like
so we repeat the same mistake. That's what it's talking about responsibilities.
Of course, yeah. He's setting he set a bad precedent in the past, and then now signing this DP, not knowing if he's going to fit in the coach's plans, not knowing if the next coach is going to come in, bench him, want to bring someone else. I don't know. It's hard.
I said this on one of our episodes. Atlanta United already said, "Fuck it." At the end of the year, we're gonna find a coach for the next season and start all over again. That's my impression. That's my opinion on it. So
because it makes it because they need to turn over a lot of these players now. They've gotten enough information this season to know kind of, I think, what players they're going to be able to count on going forward and which ones they're going to need to try to swap. Although with some guys, you talk about a guy like Emerson Hyndman, who they spent a lot of money, they gave him a big salary to bring in. I know,
and he's starting on the bench.
No, the thing is,
he's already borderline.
Last year, and he wasn't this breakout star. He was okay. I'm not honestly, I didn't think he was gonna be signed permanently. He didn't show enough. He's too passive for his role. And man, that salary, it's hurting us right now.
Hats off to his agent.
Yeah, I think the permanent signing, I'm almost positive, was just part of the loan. It was you have to take him on loan for now because it's the only way they could fit him under the cap and do it in the transfer window and everything. And I think it was just a kind of a mandatory buy. But yeah, he was average, above average to good, I guess, in a team that was much, much better. And now when he's not in a team where he's got Darlington Nagbe sitting near him and all these, better players around him, makes it even harder for someone like him. And I think that honestly, the way he's being paid is like a guy who was supposed to come in and be a guy who could control the game the way Darlington Nagbe did. Maybe it's not identical to the way he did it, but do the same types of thing on the field. And he's just proven not to be that guy. So anyway, for a guy like him, it's going to be much more difficult to try to find somebody who will take on that salary. And obviously he would have to agree to a move too. So they might be stuck with Hyndman for a little bit.
That's the thing. That's the thing. With that salary that we're giving to Hyndman, we couldn't keep Marin and give a raise to Gressel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's what I don't know. What is in the head of the
what I took from the town hall was that 2020 is not a success because Joseph was down. We couldn't keep anyone because of the salary cap, and I think it's just the town hall was mostly like the FO giving excuses. I didn't see any steps moving forward. Oh, we're working on this. This is what we want to do. No, they're blindfolded, just making moves.
I want to say, I just want to caveat one thing when we've been talking about Emerson Hyndman, it's not him personally. It's just the combination of the performance plus the contract because of the way that MLS is with the salary cap and everything. In some open market, I want every player to make as much money as they possibly can, and more power to Emerson Hyndman for even making as much money as he is in this environment. But when it comes to if you want to be a championship team, you need to be getting maximum production out of every, dollar you spend. And so when you just kind of don't have that with a guy like Hyndman, it's tough. And it's happened before. It's I think every team has to kind of sort of account for some gap between spend and production. Like Chris McCann, I think those first couple of years was on a pretty big contract. He was one of the first signings for Atlanta United, and he wasn't that big of a player. So you kind of have to take into account some of that. But for someone like Hyndman, who was a big time transfer and was supposed to, I think, come into the starting 11 and be a regular, it's tough to swallow that big of a chunk of kind of lost production.
Right now we have a brand new team. Yeah, this year we built a brand new team. Which no coach. Sorry for Stephen Glass, but I think he's just he's in the bad moment, in the bad time. That's the only thing.
If you have an interim, you don't have a coach.
Exactly. So when we start to talking about rebuild a team, talking about identity, try to give it that to this team. Yeah, because every day the people can start to see these kind of things. We've been talking about this for the last year and a half. And many people reject my point of view. Yeah, I like the Atlanta United, the 2018, a little bit of the 2019, but now I think we don't have the quality on the field to have this kind of team. Yeah, we are not the main team in the field in a match. Yeah, we always divide the ball. We don't take advantage of many things, and I really think we have players who they can play in this level, and that's what worries me so bad. Now we have Marcelino Moreno. Okay, we have a player I really believe he's a good player. I saw many matches of him in Argentina, but it's going to be the same movie like Piri Martinez. He comes to a team without a coach, without identity, and they need to fix that. What do you think, all you guys, no? What do you think they need to do to give it that? Outside of hire a new coach, of course.
Well, I think one of the things that even a guy like Miguel Almiron did, and even Joseph, they make the players around them better. You look at Julian Gressel, and again, his move to DC United, he's kind of shown that it's not the same when you don't have someone in the middle of the field kind of helping you, giving you service. It's not the same when you don't have a guy like Joseph Martinez on the other end that you can knock the ball into, and he just has this instinct. I think Julian Gressel and Joseph Martinez were the two most instinct players I've ever seen ever.
Yeah, they played
based off the way they played. I've never seen two players that just knew exactly where they were going every step of the way. But it was a product of having guys like Miguel Almiron, having guys like Joseph Martinez, having those big time players that you could build around and that made the players around him better. Pity was the guy that the good players made better, I guess. Pity was that guy. Pity was the supporting cast, and especially at River. It's not to say he's a bad player. He can't do it by himself, and he was asked to do it by himself. And I think that was the mistake the front office made, thinking that he could do something like that.
So now Moreno have to do the same thing. Technically,
I think that, yeah, but I think he's more capable of doing that than I think Pity was.
Why
of being a leader on the field,
of being someone that could draw attention, that could draw defenders. Maybe he's not a leader, but maybe through talent alone, he can find a way to open things up for other players. Because again, that's why Julian Gressel is struggling in DC United, because they don't have that kind of player, and because he's kind of, at least at the start, he was asked to play a different position. But that's why he's struggling, is because he doesn't have that support that he used to have. It's the same thing with Yamil Asad, by the way. Yamil Asad was good because he was playing alongside Miguel Almiron and Joseph Martinez.
And for example,
Don't tell that to our fans, though.
It's not. Look, it's not a. Most soccer.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
90% of soccer players are those players. 90% of soccer players are those players. They're a product of the players they play around.
Yeah. So then my next question is like, okay, you have Marcelo Moreno now. Where do you put it?
Yeah,
because I think you can take off like 4 or 5 players from the field to put Marcelo Moreno.
You take your pick.
To do that.
My hope is that he would play in the midfield a lot like Almiron did. That would be my hope. I think he's got a similar skill set. I don't know that he's going to do it exactly the same way, but I think he's good enough, skilled enough to be that transition from the defensive third into the middle third and then into the attacking third.
So you're gonna move Barquito, or do you think Barco is gonna left the team?
I think you're gonna ask Barco to maybe play a little more up top or out wide, something to where he can kind of flourish on his own, or move around a little like Pity.
Barco's the craziest thing, because it's weird because there's no hot rumors on him right now, and yet I still feel like I'd be shocked if he's still on this team on October 6th.
That's the thing with Atlanta. Atlanta is so sealed that when somebody left, you find out when he's on the way to that other team. That's how we find out from Frank de Boer. He wasn't even mentioned it. And then, hey, this is the coach. Where you came from? Who are you? You know? That's the thing with Atlanta.
The leaks always come from the other team. If they're buying a player, it comes from whatever club or country or whatever.
Like Leandro Gonzalez Pires. We find he's playing in Mexico. Wait, Leandro left? Huh?
To me, that was such a last minute move from the front office. The Mesa transfer in. It was just on the field. It might have been like something with the league, or I don't know, but I just found it so shady that literally LGP was like an hour before we announced, or an hour after we announced Mesa, LGP was already playing.
He was on the field.
That's another sign. That's another sign that Atlanta United doesn't have identity, because they do things so sketchy, so sealed, that it doesn't match with what you have already in the field. So they just, it's like if they're going to Twitter to see who is trending. I want that player. Let's brought it. Hey, it doesn't fit with our team. I don't care. It's trending. Bring it.
But
so,
in fairness to the front office, you don't want these things to get out.
Yeah, right.
You don't want these. Atlanta United actually doing their job by not letting these rumors leak on their end, because what happens if these rumors leak? Then another team say, look, I think that I have no insider knowledge, so I don't know if this is true or not. This is just speculation. But the point is the same. If Atlanta United was going after a guy like Barros Esqueloto and LA Galaxy got whiff of, he's available, he's someone that Atlanta United is interested, let's check him out. Maybe we can offer him more money. Maybe we can attract him this, that, or the other. And then he says yes. That's why you don't leak those things. It's so that other teams don't try to snatch your guy. That happens rarely, but it does happen. It's a reason enough for Atlanta United, the front office, to not say anything ever. And that's not just Atlanta United. You don't hear rumors about any teams ever. Hardly.
I don't think anyone wanted to snatch Mesa. No, like.
So we kind of got on this topic because I was talking about Barco potentially leaving, and I think so. I want to get back to this identity point, which is that you could be looking at playing through some of the rest of the regular season with still just Marcelino Moreno as your lone DP. Maybe you keep Barco and you have 2 for the rest of the season. Regardless, the team identity is not going to be built around the talent, like Nico said, like the quality on the field. For the rest of but you still have to kind of fight around some common cause or some kind of identity. And I think that one of the reasons why it was a positive to see the team work so hard in that game against Dallas on Wednesday was that that can be something that people can get behind on this in this team the rest of the season is like a team that goes out there and works really hard, presses, gives other teams a hard time all over the pitch, because the talent's like Joseph's not walking through the door this year. Like you have to find something else to kind of build the team around. So I think that maybe that could be it, and it will be really interesting to see with Barco whether he's kind of a part of that or not, because of course, like we saw when he was out of the squad, they put in like a very different type of performance, partially because his quality isn't on the field, so they can't play in the same kind of way. But based on what some of the players were saying, it sounds like the team had some sort of, not confrontational, but like a meeting, like some sort of film session where there were like people really kind of motivated each other. So maybe that'll be a turning point.
It also could build it could build the characters that some of these fans want to see, because I think one of the things that you don't have right now is anything to kind of, there's no connection to this team, at least the players individually. And so if you have a guy like Gallagher just busting his ass up and down the field, playing out of his mind, if you got a Brooks Lennon who might not be the Julian Gressel we were hoping he was, or the front office was hoping was, but if he busts his ass doing things, if you got a guy like Adam John step up in moments, you can find a way to kind of connect to this team on an individual player basis that help you kind of become more attracted to this team. Because right now it feels like a group of players that are playing under the crest, and we don't really have that connection to them. But if you have this kind of almost like a Red Bulls mentality to the game, then you can appreciate the effort enough to where you start building this connection, building this likability to individual players, to these characters on the team.
I think the most important thing, though, is that you have a long-term identity of what this team is going to be beyond this short-term Stephen Glass portion of Atlanta United's history. Who's going to be that next coach? Who's going to be those next group of players that hopefully bring you success? I think that the front office really needs to kind of define that so that they can make better acquisitions that fit better together on the field and give you better results.
So we already know we're gonna have like a 3 season, like maybe don't get playoff, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this situation, you have today 3 DPs, Joseph, Barco, and now Moreno. But the problem of the transition in defensive, we still have it there. So we can hire like Suarez, Neymar, and Messi, and we're gonna keep losing 4-3, 6-5. Because we can hold two strikers. I really think we make like dumb mistakes. Like I watched the Nashville game, and I can't believe who walks and Robinson make that kind of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk each other. They speak the same language, man. That's what I don't understand. You don't have like a leader. We bring Mesa for that. Okay, Mesa the last game, he do it really well. But I still believe
He's inconsistent.
He's a short-term player. He come here to fix the problem. Oh, we saw HP. We don't have a player who makes Robinson play better, because I really believe Robinson is a good player, but I think he's a physical player. He's not a smart player. He needs someone beside him to tell him, like, go, step up, wait, now press, now go high, now close. Now, that's the thing. We don't have a goalkeeper who do that. We don't have another defender who do that. And George Bello, he still be a key. I really believe.
But I think he's part of the problem, because when you look at George Bello, he especially early on, he made mistakes that made Miles look bad. But that's not on Meza and Miles. That's on Bello. And since then, it seems like he's corrected those mistakes, at least enough to where where the back line is a little more cohesive than it was at the beginning of the season. I'm not saying it's perfect.
Eric, against Nashville,
it wasn't great. Yeah, I'm not denying that.
You can get back. And you and your partner watch each other, waiting. Oh, you go, I go. Oh, well, yeah. Or Robinson go to press, and Watts never go to make the cover. Like that kind of things, I can do it playing with my friends. But in this level, you don't need a coach to know that. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about identity, about a team, like a compact team. They know each other. They know what to do, and they bring every new faces in every position, And not just that, just they bring bad players. They bring players who don't play Roseto. They bring players who they don't play in their teams.
Yeah.
Who you want?
One of our last signings, Jurgen. Then he wasn't even playing in Tigres, and they brought it. He's good on TikTok. Brought him.
He's
Come on.
Good for the marketing.
It's a player that Tigres brought for 10 million. 10 million, let him go on a free, and that's pretty much all you have to.
That's a red flag. That's a red
exactly.
I mean, part of that is down to like the rules in MLS. It's like you can't pay transfers at all, essentially, in MLS. Like they've got to do something about that to allow you to at least do small transfers, like that allow you to kind of keep the team fluid and keep the quality up. It's just very difficult. Like the reason that Atlanta United was able to get in players like Leandro, like Yamil, like all these guys from South America who are really good players. They got them for relatively, I think, cheap deals because they had Tata kind of leading that brigade, and the players wanted to come play for him, and I think the clubs were happy to do it. So. But it's very hard to do that, and especially when you're in a situation like Atlanta United is in now, where you don't even have a coach. It just makes everything much more difficult.
This from the first day with McDonough and with Darren. Well, Darren come here later, but they were a team. And when he started Barco was Bocanegra's. He buy Barco. Nobody asked for Barco. Tata don't wanted Barco in the team. And he bring it, I paid $50 million. Okay, whatever. He going to stay in the bench. I don't care. So now, he been from the beginning of this. So he had some examples of how do things. Remedy was a unknown player. And he was one of the important thing in the middle with Nagby. Gressel was an unknown name. He come from the draft. Robinson. So I think we need to stop to look at like Bocanegra's profile of players, because he want name, he want curriculum, he want you play in this team, you good. No, you're not good for us. I don't care if you play in the Mexican national team. I don't care.
They're clout signings. It's much cheaper to delegate your player recruitment to your coach than it is for Bocanegra to bring those players in. Because obviously, what idea or what identity did Bocanegra sell to Moreno? Where disaster come try to fix it. That's expensive. That's an expensive transfer.
I think for the money.
But instead, if you bring a coach and says, "Yo, I'm building this project. I want you to be a part of this," it's cheaper.
You're even more attractive.
Let's logical.
Let me ask.
Coach, he come from the money.
Let me ask this: if you're being told that a player like Moreno is sort of a close replacement to what Miguel Almiron is, by the guys who have watched him in Argentina, would you not want that player on your team? Yeah. If he can bring you back to what Atlanta United looked like in 2017, 2018, wouldn't you want that player on your team, regardless of who the coach was?
But how do you know he's that type of player?
You don't. But you didn't know.
We'll find out.
But you didn't know Miguel Almiron was going to be. You didn't know Miguel Almiron was going to be who the player was going to be. You didn't know Joseph Martinez.
Tata knew those players were going to be.
So Miguel maybe. Joseph Martinez, you didn't know what you were getting out of. Julian Gress, you didn't know what you're getting out of. Same with Miles Robinson. Same with LGP. Same with everyone on this on the roster in 2017, 2018. It worked out really well. But if you get a chance to replicate the model you had in 2017, 2018, I would go ahead and take that chance. You're going to have to spend the money on someone. You're going to have to bring someone in.
Denying that. Yeah.
He can do it.
I'm not saying he's going to work out. Right. What I am saying is that it's a look back at what worked and trying to replicate that.
So going on that length and to close all this thing, I'm really worried about the transfer window for December, for winter, because if we keep going the way that we're going right now, that we're going to the bottom of the table, nobody wants to play in Atlanta. That's the thing. It's going to be hard to sign in players because nobody want to come over here to play.
I don't believe that.
I don't believe it either.
I see players. Players like Steven Gerrard, Ibrahimovic. Many players come play here. Thierry Henry in that moment, and they come to play like an amateur league, because in that time the MLS was like an amateur league. That's the MLS on the eyes of the world of the soccer. Right now.
Let me rephrase this. So it will be determined by what coach we hire.
I think that's.
Sure.
I mean, I think that I want to see a coach before I see another player come in. You know, like I want to see the coach be the next personnel that's brought in.
Depending what coach we brought.
You're always going to be able to attract players, though. I mean, as Atlanta United, you've got the facilities that are put up against the best in the world, at least in the training ground. I mean, you've got the infrastructure in place to draw the attention of some of these bigger names. I don't necessarily know that the players like Ibrahimovic and Gerrard are the players that Atlanta United's going after anyway. So it's not like you're looking for the players that are looking to then get to Europe or then get to a bigger club and make more money. And those aren't those type of players. You're looking for the young stud talents that aren't being looked at by the clubs in Europe. Right. That's been the motto, at least. If they change that whenever this next coach comes in, then we'll have something different to say. But
well, definitely we had to do another episode with you guys. I hope Felipe Cárdenas will join us on the next one as well. Ron?
Yeah, thank you guys for joining. This is Siempre United. We got El Sabroso Vélez, Eric Quintana, Joe Patrick, Nicolás González Pires, and Ronald Peña. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we can do this again. And vámonos, muchachos.
Nico, otra vez. Dilo con más energía, por favor.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for coming to do this. It's really good for the Atlanta United world, because that make the people understand what we think and what we see from this side, okay? And bueno, muchas gracias para todos. Les quiero mandar un abrazo a todos los que están viendo. Espero que esto lo podamos repetir con más caras, como la de Felipe Cárdenas, otro referente acá, junto con Joe Patrick, Eric Quintana, El Sabroso Vélez, Roncito. Esta va en español, así que ¡vámonos, muchachos!